General, thanks for coming back. It's the first appearance since your troops killed Qasem Soleimani. I want to commend you for your role and their role in removing the world's worst terrorist mastermind from the face of the earth. Is it fair to say that Iran's leaders were somewhat chastened by the killing of Qasem Soleimani?
I think it is. Just a little earlier, we talked about capability and will. They've never doubted our capability. They have often doubted our will, and I think that gave them something to think about.
Back in the day, in the 2000s, Qasem Soleimani traveled with extreme operational security. Is that correct?
That is correct.
During much of the 2010s, did he shed that operational security and travel more openly to the point of posting pictures of himself on social media?
Well, I think he was he communicated a lot to a lot of different people. I just leave it at that. He was active in the information.
Suggesting that he felt a degree of impunity to travel around and wreak havoc against the United States, impunity that he maybe didn't have after all. Let's stay on Iran, and let's talk about coronavirus in particular. We obviously know that it's impacted some of the senior leaders in their regime. We've seen it on television news. Do you have an assessment of just how extensive it is among Iran's leadership?
Certainly. You know, we've seen public admissions of various senior leaders that are ill and a couple that have actually died. I think it is having an effect on how they make decisions. I think it slows them down. I think there are a couple of pressures on Iranian leadership right now. One is the outrage after the shoot down of the aircraft after their attack on al-Assad. That coupled with their inability to effectively respond to the coronavirus is, I think, inducing pressure on and inside the leadership. And of course, we watch that very closely. It's a very opaque state, very hard for us to see in there. But I believe the numbers are probably significantly underreported in terms of coronavirus victims in Iran. So we look at that pretty hard going forward because the permeability and porousness of the borders. Iran sits in the middle of the theater, so their ability to pass that infection to other states is very worrisome.
Yeah, I suspect it actually may be the worst outbreak anywhere in the world, contrary to what Iranian media would say. Does that presumably apply to Iran's troops as well, both their regular military and IRGC troops? If their society is facing this wide-scale outbreak, do you assess that their troops are as well?
I would say it's going to have some effect on the military instrument. We look at it, it's hard. We can talk a little bit more about this in closed session, sir, and I'd like to do that, but we watch that very closely.
Okay. What do you assess to be the impact of the oil price collapse over the last 4 days on Iran's government and its military capabilities?
So I think it probably hurts them. They're under grave pressure right now through a variety of economic instruments that are the sanctions that are applied against them. I don't think this particularly helps in any way. I think they have an active policy of trying to find ways to swap tankers around and do that, which is marginally successful. So I don't think it means anything good for them. Aside from that, I'd just like a little more time to take a look at it, but I don't think it's a good thing for Iran.
There's been some talk around the world about providing more humanitarian aid to Iran. Secretary Pompeo recently called for Iran to release all foreign national prisoners before a nation provides some humanitarian aid. Do you think that's a reasonable step?
I defer to the Secretary of State on that one, sir.
What about coronavirus among our troops? What steps are we taking there?
So we, in the theater right now, we have one contractor with symptoms. We have another person who actually picked him up at the airport after we returned from a trip outside the theater who is in quarantine as well. So we watch that very, very closely. Right now, we believe we have good precautions in place. We've cut back significantly on intra-theater travel. For example, someone in pick a place, Kuwait, who wanted to go to UAE maybe for a weekend of elective liberty, we don't do that anymore. So that travel is mission essential only. We have also yesterday we put some restrictions on going into Bahrain as well from outside the theater. So what we're trying to do is maintain isolation. So that we protect the critical functions that we have to do. There's some things where we just cannot accept the risk of an infection. Yeah. So we look very hard at those things and try to maintain good physical separation.
One final question. You say on page 9 of your written testimony that unmanned aircraft systems are, quote, "the most concerning tactical development in the CENTCOM area of operations since the rise of the improvised explosive device." Anyone who knows what those improvised explosive devices did to our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan would find that a very troubling statement. We've spent billions of dollars in the Department of Defense on counter-drone systems. I'm concerned that we're still under grave threat to them, but I'm also encouraged to see that your command has been experimenting with so many new and more effective counter-drone systems. I'm worried that they're not widely fielded yet, so I just wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about whether your needs are being met and what this committee could do to be more effective on counter-drone systems.
So the department is working very hard. As you know, executive sponsorship for this program has gone to the Army, which I think is good. It will focus it and be even more responsive to our requirements. I think the key thing is right now we're simply at a stage in the development of these systems, and you see it in the back and forth of warfare where the advantage is with the operator and with the offense. We will catch up. It's going to take us a little time to do that. And really, it's what we would call the Group 1 and Group 2s that concern me the most. The small ones that you can go and buy at Costco, duct tape a grenade or a mortar bomb to and fly it into an objective. The larger ones, we have ways to deal with them because they're more like aircraft and in a traditional way, although they're still very concerning. So we have not yet integrated a solution to this. The Army has a lot of great ideas, and there are a variety of other good things out there that are working. We just haven't yet managed to bring it all together. And we work this every day, and I believe the energy is there, but we're still solving the dynamic.
Thank you.